I didn't want my dad to walk me down the aisle because he's in a wheelchair. Growing up, my dad was basically Superman to me. He taught me how to ride a bike, helped with my homework, and would carry me on his shoulders to see over crowds at parades. When I was 15, a drunk driver hit his car and left him paralyzed from the waist down. Everything changed overnight. Dad spent months in physical therapy learning how to use his wheelchair. I watched him struggle with things that used to be so easy for him. Opening doors, reaching high shelves, even just getting into the car became these massive challenges. But he never complained, not once. The thing is, after the accident, people started treating him differently, like he was fragile or something. At my high school graduation, some teacher actually asked if he needed assistance getting to his seat. I wanted to punch that lady in the face. My dad was still the same person, just sitting instead of standing. When I got engaged to my boyfriend Trevor, wedding planning started immediately. Mom was all over Pinterest, booking venues, talking about flowers and centerpieces. Then she brought up the father-daughter dance and walking down the aisle. That's when it hit me. Everyone would be staring at my dad in his wheelchair. I kept thinking about how people at my graduation looked at him with those pitying faces, how they spoke slower to him like he couldn't understand English anymore. I didn't want that energy at my wedding. I wanted everything to be perfect, and honestly, I was embarrassed about how it would look in photos. So I told my parents I wanted to walk down the aisle alone. Dad's face completely fell when I said it. He asked why, and I made up some stupid excuse about being independent and modern. But Mom saw right through it and pulled me aside later. She asked if I was ashamed of Dad, and I denied it, but we both knew she was right. I suggested maybe my uncle could walk me instead, since he's been like a second father to me. Dad just nodded and said whatever made me happy was fine with him. 2 weeks before the wedding, I was at the venue doing a final walkthrough when I saw this other bride practicing her ceremony. Her dad was in a wheelchair too, and when they did their practice run, there wasn't a dry eye in the place. He rolled beside her down the aisle with this huge smile, and she held his hand the whole time. It was actually more beautiful than any traditional walk I'd ever seen. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how my dad taught me to drive in an empty parking lot, taking extra time because he had to modify everything with hand controls. How he never missed a single soccer game, even when it meant arriving early to get a good parking spot for his van. How he still made my favorite pancakes every Sunday morning, even though reaching the stove was harder now. I realized I was being a complete idiot. My dad wasn't an embarrassment. He was the strongest person I knew. The accident didn't make him less of a man or less of a father. If anything, watching him rebuild his entire life made me respect him even more. 3 days before the wedding, I went to his workshop where he was building a birdhouse. I sat down next to his wheelchair and started crying. I told him I was sorry and asked if he'd still walk me down the aisle. He set down his tools and just held my hand. He said he never stopped hoping I'd change my mind, but he understood why I was scared. He told me he was scared too. Scared people would judge me for having a disabled father. Scared he'd somehow ruin my perfect day. We both just cried together for like 20 minutes. Dad and I are closer now than we've ever been.